survive and keep on surviving.
All right, my song just started going. My Spotify got a little crazy there. Welcome everyone to our October. Believe it or not, can you believe it's already setting up for October? I can't. So we're going to do our monthly setup tonight. And I think I saw some folks in the chat saying that this is their first setup. They're new to Silk and Saunders. So you can just throw you can want to throw a me in the chat if you're new, if this is your first time. Oh, awesome. Terry's saying, oh, I see all the news coming up. Lots of news. Welcome to all of our new folks. We love to have you here at these setups. They are so fantastic to come to, so you kind of get the hang of what to do with this journal. The nice thing to remember is we can't hear you and we can't see you. The only people that you can hear and see is going to be me and my fabulous co-host here, who's going to be kind of hanging out in the chat, is Karen. She's going to pop on. She's giving a little wave. You might be able to see her, might not, depends on the settings, but she'll be hanging out in the chat if you have questions, need anything. And I keep forgetting I need to post our picture. So believe it or not, finally, Karen and I got to meet in real life. She was here in Denver last week. And so I ran downtown. I took a long lunch from work so that we could have lunch. And so it was super fun to meet. So I'll have to post that picture in Sonder Club of us getting together, because it was super fun to actually, like, oh, you're a whole person, right? Not just a top part of you. So on these monthly setups, we really kind of show you a lot of ideas, things to do with your journal. First of all, I want to make sure that everyone knows the journal should never be a source of stress. The journals are here for you. You make them your own. There is no wrong way to Sonder, right? So don't ever think like, oh, I don't know how I'm supposed to fill this out, or I don't know if this is right, or oh, I got behind, or oh, I didn't fill this out right. Like, nope. This is all about you. This is all about taking care of yourself. This is all about learning. And the great thing is, we get a new month. We get to try out some new things. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. So the other thing, just be sure you set your Zoom chat to everyone. So down there in that little box where there's like a little blue box, a lot of times it will default back to host and panelists. So you want to make sure that you set it to everyone, right? And it will keep kind of going back and forth sometimes, because if you don't switch it back to everyone, then the only people who can see your chat is myself and Karen. I also want to mention that our monthly setups are a little bit longer, a little tiny bit longer. Instead of an hour, they are an hour and 15 minutes. So we get a little 15 minutes extra together time. If you have to hop off early, no worries. We do record these. We put them up on our YouTube channel. You can always watch later. Just remember, the chat will not be there. So if you ever see anything in the chat, you might want to take a screenshot of it or a picture if you want to remember what folks were saying. The other thing that I always recommend too is, as we're going through these slides and you see examples, grab your phone, take a picture. If you're on your phone, take a screenshot, computer screenshot, so that you can kind of remember what you saw as you're working on it later. Because even though we're together for an hour and a half, sometimes that's not enough time to get things set up like you want, especially when you're new and you're like, I don't know what I want to do with this. I just want to see these ideas, right? No, Nicole, we are not going to go do the Olympics of overthinking, right? Try not to do that. Right. So let's jump in here. I also want to remind folks of our community guidelines. This is a safe, supportive space, right? And we want to keep it that way. So we ask that you're kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy. If you know someone here that's here and you know them in real life, you don't bring up what they've talked about or what we've talked about in Sonder Club when you're kind of in mixed company, shall we say, in non-Sonder fam places. No hate speech or bullying. We limit those repetitive product and accessory questions. If you want to know about pins or stickers, it's not a big deal to throw that in the chat, but really the best place for that is our app, in the Sonder Club app, because people can pop links in there. They can show pictures of what they're doing. Oh yeah, speaking of stickers, Karen, and she'll probably throw the link in later on. I don't know if you saw, but we have a new vendor, new stickers. Karen and I are anxiously awaiting getting ours because we want to try those out. So I haven't seen them in person yet, but we do have new Silk and Sonder stickers. So super excited. Oh, Kendra saw and pre-ordered. So I'm not sure when those come in, but keep an eye because we'll definitely be popping those into our journals for you to see, and we'll let you know. We'll give you our unbiased review if that's possible, of how those stickers are working, right? If you have any of those customer care questions, like a shipping delay or a billing issue, we ask that you send all of those to hello@silkandsonder.com. Karen and I are contractors with Silk and Sonder, so we don't have access to any of the cool behind the scenes information with your account or anything like that. So those questions go to them. They are a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 operations. So sometimes it takes them a little while to get to those. So just give them a little bit of grace when you ask a question, send an email. And most importantly, these Sonder Socials are a tool to help you elevate your emotional health through the power of community. And we have a fantastic community here. So again, if you're new, you're in the right place if you want some support and you want some love and you want some ideas. But ultimately, you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if there's ever anything you're working on that you're like, that's not my jam, or I don't want to fill out that section, or if the music I play, you're like, I don't really care for that, just know, do what you need to do. If the music is, I mean, we kind of play some non-lyric songs when we're working on our journal, but something that you don't like, you can always mute it and turn on the closed caption so that you can see when we pop back in, right? So again, this is all about you. This is all about your self-care. This is your time, right? So you do what you need to do. So, and I'm probably going to say, I was laughing with Karen earlier. So I'm the one who makes a lot of these basic slides for our facilitators. And so I've been having to write the word perseverance, but in order to remember how to spell it, I keep saying it as perseverance. So if I mix up and go back and forth, just know that sometimes I'm trying to remember how to spell it, or remember how, I know, Amber, I keep having to say perseverance, but then it sounds silly when I say it like that. So anyway, just know if you have trouble with the word, I have trouble with the word. So don't feel bad about that. But that's going to be an interesting theme, I think, to kind of dig into October. I think it's nice here as we go into this last quarter, we're kind of persevering through the year, and we're really going to kind of explore what that means. Also, a little plug, make sure if you can to join us for our weekly setups, because at our weekly setups, we do what we call a mind map, where we talk about we have some little prompts that will have you digging in each week to the theme, right? So love to see you at those as well. And I know a lot of people were talking about last month, or technically we're still in September, that theme of flourish was kind of tough for some folks because they felt like they weren't really flourishing. So time to transition to that new theme. And I think this is a good one as we head into these darker winter months. I always like to encourage folks to read Meha's letter, the letter to the editor, which I believe now, I should have checked my app, but I believe we have it now. If you go like up to the top, they call it read this month's editor's note. Right now it still says flourish, but it's kind of up at the top of your home screen. So if you ever want to see that because you don't have it with you, you can always see that. But I like her letters because it kind of gives you an idea of what she's thinking as she comes up with this theme, as she kind of put together our journal for the month. And so she talks about like, okay, in her mind, October really is the last full month of the year, because in November we have holidays, in December we have holidays. There's just a lot kind of going on, and October is kind of that last month where there's not a lot of official holidays per se. However, I work for a school district, and so we've got fall break in October. So there is still a little bit of a holiday there. And this idea of feeling excitement and discomfort about what it feels like to persevere, right? And she talks a little bit about how that felt for her when she was younger and how that feels for her now. I like how she says incorporating gratitude and joy helps it feel better. And when she's doing those tasks, right, you're trying to persevere, you're trying to get through something, but you're doing a task, you don't really like it. She kind of plays with the idea of what's fun about what I'm doing, right? So what's the fun part? So she says when fundraising felt hard for her when she was first starting out, she would ask herself, what's fun about fundraising? I meet smart people. I get to brag about how amazing my Sonder fam is. I get to educate people. So while the task itself isn't necessarily fun, she really kind of that idea of helping you think about what's fun about this thing I have to do kind of helps her and has helped her persevere. And it really is that culmination of all the small steps plus consistency. And we're going to talk about that when we get to our habits, right? We're going to talk about this idea of small steps, and consistency is really what makes us be able to persevere. So here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to have a little opening activity. We're going to reflect on September. Always important to reflect on the month that we're leaving. We're going to set our intentions for October. We're going to work on that mood tracker, and we're going to work on our habit tracker. And I always like to use these two cartoons from this lovely artist called The Latest Kate. And the first one says, there's room for you here just as you are, right? So sometimes folks are having trouble. Sometimes folks are, maybe they lost a job, or they have a family member who's passed, or they have a fur baby who's crossed the rainbow bridge. Things have not gone as they would like. They're struggling, having some issues. It's okay to share those. In fact, we encourage that. We're here to support you, right? Sometimes people can give suggestions. We've had folks who have had troublesome teenagers and some ideas for how to deal with that, or maybe some issues with roommates or significant others or jobs, right? So just know, and I can see some of the chat rolling through, and that someone's kind of struggling a little bit with something, and just knowing that you're not alone in your struggles, I think is so, so important. Conversely, sometimes we're having great success, right? We got a new job, we got a promotion, we became an auntie for the first time, became a grandparent for the first time. Things are going great. Share your successes, share your joys, share those wonderful things with us as well, because we love to celebrate with you as well. Nothing is too sad or too happy, right? Again, that's how life is. It's really those ups and downs with our feelings. And speaking of that, the other cartoon says, the way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy, right? Nobody can tell you how you should feel about something. Nobody can say, oh, you shouldn't be sad about that, or, oh, you should be happy about this, right? Nobody can tell you that. Your feelings are your feelings, and we're here with you to feel the feels with your Sonder fam. So let's dive in to our opening activity. Now, this is not something that's in the journal specifically. This is very specific to the social, and that's the fun things here with the socials, is that we do some activities that aren't in your book. And this is what we're going to call the Perseverance Fire, right? So find a blank page in your journal. Some people like to use a blank page early on. I will say this month we have the Wheel of Life, so you lose that blank page in the very opening. Yes, and Nicole's saying, oh boy, the Wheel of Life is back. We do have a social to address that. So if you look at that Wheel of Life and you're not sure what to do with it, hang on for the social. Keep an eye out for when that's going to come. Sign up for that. It is one that's included in your membership. So sign up for that. Karen is doing it, and Karen loves it. And Karen has a fantastic story to tell you about how it impacted her life. So highly recommend that you join her for that. There's lots of blank pages in the back too, right? So again, this is anywhere. It can be on scratch paper, anywhere you want. So what we want you to do is to sketch out a fire, right? So you can draw, there's a little picture here of a fire that you can draw. I know we have some amazing artists, lots of people that do fun things. Oh, somebody's got a real fire that they can kind of smell burning. So yeah, so yep, you can totally do this on the sketch page. Just know that there probably is a social that's associated with the sketch page. But if you're not doing that and you want to use that for that, that's absolutely fine, right? And then in the timber around it, so the fire is you, right? You're the fire that you draw. And the timber around it, the kindling, the logs, all of that is going to be the actions that you can take, or the affirmations that you like and you will use to affirm in order to keep your flame alight this month. right? And then throughout the month, reflect on this and add more to keep your flame burning bright. So I did. I borrowed this from our other fabulous facilitator, Jen O, who is going to do a monthly Setup Social on Saturday that you're also welcome to attend as well. So she has a way to, a quick way to sketch. So this is kind of helpful, I think, if you're like me and you think, I don't know if I can draw this fire, right? So again, you're sketching out a fire, timber around it, writing down actions you can take or affirmations to affirm in order to keep your flame alight. Throughout the month, you're going to reflect and add more. So I have some ideas for you of things that you could do if you're not quite sure what to put into your kindling, what to put into your logs there. So things like staying connected, keep moving, eat well, get plenty of sleep, do something you enjoy every day, reach out when things are feeling tough, get outside, do something creative, listen to your favorite music or go to a concert, start a new TV series or a new book, support small businesses, shops and restaurants, and celebrate small wins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of music. I'll cycle through. I'll let you see this sketch page as you're drawing. Let us know what you are going to put in those logs, in that timber, that is going to help. Yeah, Miss Steph is saying, oh man, this is one for the tissues. This does, I mean, sometimes our activities do kind of bring out a little bit of the tears, but that's okay, right? As my dad said, it helps you wash out your eyes. So work on that. We'll check back in. Feel free to share in the chat, and we'll check in here in just a few minutes. right. So hopefully you had some time to come up with some ideas. Like I said, I know a lot of folks were saying, I'm not an artist. I'm not good at drawing. Art's not my strength, which is fine to say, like we're used to saying those kinds of things, but don't be so hard on yourself, right? And again, remember, this is your journal, so give it a shot, right? Just try to kind of draw. A lot of times I would not call myself an artist by any means, but a lot of times I look at some of these clip art kinds of pictures and then I can just kind of draw, draw, right? And see how it comes out. And actually I've been kind of surprised at how it doesn't look so bad. So yeah, let me go back to the how-to drawing so you can take a screenshot of that. And that comes from the website iheartcraftythings.com. So if you ever want to go to that website to kind of find things, you can certainly do that as well. So I saw lots of folks saying things like in their timber, in their firewood, they were putting things like setting boundaries, saying no, leaving work at work. Some people were saying things like listening to inspiring podcasts or reading good books, staying connected again, right? Like practicing a particular hobby that they enjoy. I love people saying that like their logs look like cinnamon rolls, their logs look like octopus arms. You know, hey, they are what they are. I bet they look awesome. You're probably being too hard on yourself, right? So, no, I don't think your fire probably looks bad, Colleen. You think it looks bad, but I bet it doesn't. I bet you can, maybe you could make it into something else. I think it will be fine. And just kind of, you guys are so funny. And also feel free to share any of these with us there in Sonder Club, because again, someone might be inspired. You might be the spark that lights their fire. Your example might be the spark. So I promise I will try to draw something and post it on our Sonder Club so that you can see, because my drawings probably will not look quite like this, but I do like the kind of step-by-step. Those are kind of fun. Yes, stuff saying, okay, Colleen, we need to see yours in the club. All right, so hopefully everybody was able to get some screenshots of that, got an idea for what this looks like. And again, I would love for you to add to it throughout the month. When you think of something like, oh, this really made me feel good, this is a log for my fire, I'm going to go write that down. Right, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's dive into that October planner, right? First, we're going to look at our September reflections. We always do this every month where we reflect back on the previous month. And even though technically we're still in September, but we kind of look back and we think about what we did that month. So this is on page 8 of your journal. And it asks you to think about the wins for the month, the things that went well, the things that made you smile, the things that you were like, yes, that rocked, right? Our challenges, the things maybe we didn't have as much control over, maybe no control over, things that were frustrating, things that were upsetting, things that made us sad. And our favorite moments. Sometimes the wins and the favorite moments are the same. So that's absolutely fine. And then we want you to think about what you want to start doing this month, what you want to stop doing this month, and what you want to continue. So the start are those things that are not being done, maybe, but you want to do, things maybe you want to begin doing to get better results, things worth trying or experimenting with to see if you get some better results. We want to stop those things that aren't working or aren't helping, things that impede or aren't practical, things that aren't delivering you the desired result, things you dislike, and things that no longer serve you. And I think this is one of the trickiest ones sometimes, because sometimes we'll keep doing a thing because that's what we've always done. Like, that's how I always do it. That's what I always do. And sometimes that doesn't serve us anymore. So really kind of think about, is there something I'm doing that doesn't really serve me anymore, right? And then things that we want to continue, things that are working well, we want to keep, we want to bring from last month over, things we want to continue to see if they're worthwhile. Maybe we're not sure if they're working or not, but we're like, okay, maybe if I give it another month, I can kind of take a look. Maybe things that I like or that I need. So as you're thinking about your wins, challenges, and favorite moments, you might want to look back. If you've been with us in September, you might want to look back at your rosebud thorn that we do at the end of every week. Look back at that to kind of jog your memory. Or you can also, I like to use my phone, look through my calendar and look through my photo pages, right? See what kinds of pictures I took. What did I do? I'm often surprised by the number of things that I do that I tend to forget that happened during that time. And these are some examples of previous months that some of our Sonder fam have shared with us in Sonder Club for how they filled things out, right? So again, you can have little plus, I like the kind of plus and minus and little hearts, the colors, the lovely lettering, those kinds of things. Mine never looks this fancy. Mine is usually just some pen writing, right? But again, that's okay, right? Whatever works for you. So again, play a little bit of music, let you work on this. Feel free to share in the chat if you want to share any of those wins, those challenges, those favorite moments, those things you want to start, stop, and continue to kind of help spur on ideas from with your other folks. And we'll check back here in just a minute. All right. So hopefully you've had a chance, if you wanted to reflect on last month. I know there were a few people who said, you know what, I'm not in a place right now where I feel like reflecting on September. Like I still kind of feel like I'm getting through it and I just kind of want to be in a different space when I actually reflect, or maybe you never want to reflect back on it, right? Like and that's totally fine. Again, it's kind of what is up to you. I do think it's beneficial to spend a little bit of time reflecting back. Maybe you want to only focus on the wins or you only want to focus on the few favorite moments because this time will pass, right? Just like time does. And then later, if you look back at these, you can kind of get a feeling for where you were during that month, what it kind of looked like at the end of the month. So, but again, totally up to you as that goes, as you kind of work on these different pieces. So let's jump over to our intentions. right? And these intentions that we set for the month are really this idea of how do you want to show up in this area? How do you want to kind of be? What do you want to feel? What do you want this to look like? And if you'll notice, this is at the top of page 9. We have 6 different areas that we give you as suggested areas. You can always change these up if there's one of these areas that doesn't resonate for you, right? So we have things like spiritual health, personal life, physical health, key relationships, money management, and professional goals. And I know that we have folks who are retired who say, well, I don't really have professional goals per se, but I'm going to change it to maybe crafting goals or gardening goals or creative goals or reading goals or something like that, right? Totally fine to change any of these up. And then notice at the top of that page, it talks about it being, a new month. And while I appreciate the idea that it says a new month, a new you, but we're not coming to it brand new again, right? We've had other new months that we've gone through. So you've got some things that you are kind of bringing to the table. But really, this idea of setting intentions isn't really making a to-do list. This isn't really a to-do list in each one of these things, right? It could be if you decide that's really what you want. But the idea is it's asking something of yourself and then giving yourself the strength to do it. So kind of think of it in terms of that as well. So you could certainly use our theme to kind of frame how you're thinking about these areas. You could focus on a specific area like self-love or self-talk. I saw some folks saying they wanted to stop the negative self-talk that we all can be prone to do sometimes. So maybe that's an area you want to kind of focus on. Maybe it's a song title or song lyrics that inspire you in each of these areas where you want to kind of fill those in. Again, it's that idea of how you want to feel throughout the month. Maybe you just want to do stickers or colors or images for each one of these sections. Maybe you want to do one thing you want to let go of in that area and one thing you want to start doing in that month. So let's take a look at a few ideas here. First of all, I know there's some folks who will use sticky notes over the top of these as they're thinking, so that then when they feel more settled on what they want to put in here, they can write that in later and they don't have to scribble or have what they're considering messy writing. And then I also wanted to kind of put this on as you're thinking of things to let go. I thought this was a pretty little graphic that had the dandelions, right? Letting go of things like fear, chasing perfection, needing to please, toxic relationships, comparisons, self-doubt, past mistakes, things you have no control over, right? So maybe you want to, in each of these areas, think about things that you're going to let go of this month. Yeah, Taya's saying like, oh, sticky notes, brilliant. I'm going to go get the Post-it notes. Yes, absolutely. A lot of people do that when they come to the setups. And then later when they're not feeling like they're trying to hang out in the chat or, do those kinds of things, they can finish filling in their pages. So here's some examples, right? We've got lots and lots of examples for you. A lot of folks like to incorporate art, right? I like the one here kind of in the bottom to the left where they gave themselves a little space for reflection. They have a little review section. So they kind of crossed off the money management part and they're going to use that to kind of review their month. You can, again, changing those intentions to fit your categories. So they changed up personal life to creative life. They changed up professional goals to learnings. They changed up money management to home and garden management. One person changed money management to volunteer management. So again, it's kind of what works for you. What do you think, do you need to kind of switch one of these up? Here's some other examples of some fun stickers. The month when we had tranquility, which must have been, this is September, so August, when we did tranquility, this person set theirs, they were going to invite tranquility in August by doing these things in these areas. So you could certainly do that, ways that you're going to persevere in particular areas. As you're kind of thinking of setting this up. The person over in the top left has quotes, different quotes that resonate with them for each of those different areas. Both the one on the left and the right are different ways of doing the less and more, less of something, more of something else. So like less, and for relationships, they're saying, less proximity time, more intentional time, more abundance, less fear in personal life. The one in the middle, I think, is really kind of, I had never thought of doing it this way, but just kind of making the X, and then they colored in that top and it looks like a little envelope. So they have what they want to feel. And then they kind of have action steps in each of the little sections of their envelope. So kind of a fun way to kind of set that up as well. Oops, and that's the end. So there's this example, and I'll cycle through these while I play the music. This example, and then this example, right? And then I'll put it back here in case anybody also, I saw Sherry was saying that she took a screenshot of the dandelions. So if you need a screenshot of that, play a little bit of music, and then we'll check back in here in just a moment and see how things are going. Feel free to share as much as you would like in the chat. right? So hopefully got some good ideas. I saw a lot of people were really enjoying the more and less way to approach that. And I think maybe I'll try that this month. I think that might be kind of a fun way to kind of look at this. Again, especially kind of thinking of what kinds of things can I maybe take out that would leave room for something else, right? So, and Nicole's saying I might need to attend another setup. Absolutely. We have another one tomorrow night that Karen's going to lead, and I'll be in the chat. So we'll be switching roles. And then Jen O is going to be doing one Saturday morning. So feel free to attend all three of those monthly setups if you want. Sometimes it's fun to attend first and hang out in the chat and get ideas. And then the next time, start writing things down. And then a third time where you can spend a little bit more time to get everything filled out. Absolutely. We love to have you at as many as you would like to attend. So let's dive into our mood tracker. We are going to flip to page 10. And I think this is this is probably one of the sections that I have struggled with the most in my, gosh, has it been 3 years now, since I've been getting Silk and Sonder and doing the Silk and Sonder journals, because sometimes I'm not quite sure what I want to track or what I'm going to do with. So just kind of, if you're new, right? And I saw some folks who were new saying things like, oh my gosh, I'm already really overwhelmed. This is a lot, right? Deep breath, right? You're going to kind of pick and choose what you want. I always kind of liken it to, it's a lovely buffet. There's this lovely buffet of all these things. You don't have to eat everything that's there. You can kind of pick and choose, and someone replenish the buffet for you again soon, right? So this mood tracker, couple of different ways. Well, there's many different ways to use it, but the idea is it helps us, if we're tracking our moods, to understand how we're feeling, notice those trends, and be able to make shifts, right? So when we notice that positive things are showing up, we can bring in more of that. When we notice those more negative or undesirable moods are showing up, we can maybe do what we need to do to kind of push that out of the way. So one of the ways you can do this is kind of pick 2 or 3 maybe negative or less desirable feelings, one that's maybe a little more neutral, and then a couple positive feelings. Focus on that theme this month, right? Focus on, do you want to, is it something about like, I stuck to something, or I've completed something, or, a good feeling there. And when you go to fill it out, you could fill in every emotion that came up that day. You can see in this picture, the person kind of has these pretty little watercolors. And so in some days, there's a couple different watercolors where they track that. Using stickers, colored pens, doodles, or a pen to create a key. One of the things I've done when I really am trying to track my mood, and I feel like I go through about 1 million moods a day, so I don't really want to try to make 1 million different colors in each one of those little sections. So what I do is my alarm, I did a little habit stacking. If you've ever read James Clear, The Atomic Habits, did a little habit stacking. So at noon, I have an alarm that goes off on my Fitbit, and it tells me to take my noon supplements. And so at that same time, then I also record my mood at that time. So it's my noon mood, right? So you could always do that. So I saw some people saying that they track in the evening, some people saying that they track in the morning. Some people do keep track of multiple moods, right? It's really kind of up to you. So we do have this feelings wheel. If you're like, I'm not sure what feelings, what moods I need, right? And I'll put this up when we play the music and you're working on this, so you can kind of pull some from there of something that you want to track. And again, think about, like, what do you want to know about yourself this month? I know sometimes we tend to go into hyperbole and think, I'm always mad, I'm always tired, I'm always grumpy, I'm always this. Keeping track here can kind of help give you some data to look back on, right? And say, am I always like this? No, it looks like it was this many days out of this many days, right? And we actually had one member who, her husband made some comment to her one time, like, you're always crabby, or you're always whatever. She's like, no, I'm not. Let me show you my mood tracker. I can show you, on these days I was feeling this, and on these days I was feeling that, right? So again, it's kind of nice to have something to look back on, some data, as opposed to the way we tend to, I'm always this, right? And this month we are back in our circle. If you're new, just know that the months that have 31 days are circles. The shorter months, the 30-day months and the 28-day month, will have little hexagons. So just know that there's going to be a difference. And I know we have our team circles and our team hexagons for which you prefer and which you like, right? So right now we're back in the circle. So here's some examples, and you can see I do have one example that still has like the little hexagon, so you can kind of see what that looks like. But that person was tracking stressed and anxious. They were tracking if they were tired and upset, happy, loved, angry, sad, and they were using little stickers as the key to kind of fill in. The one underneath that, they have these pretty little hash marks in the different colors, tracking happy, anxious, sentimental, depressed, romantic, and crabby. The one over here on the right, they kind of have a whole set of moods where they have surprise, and then they have all the different kinds of things that would kind of describe surprise, joy, those kinds of things. One person did it as a self-love tracker, right? So what ways did they show themselves self-love? And I know that one's kind of a little bit blurry, but they talk about I deserve me time. They have things like games and creating and shopping, movies, reading, and they have fun little stickers to put in there. The one that's kind of in the middle, they've divided it into two. So they have an AM check-in and a PM check-in. And they have, again, those different love, joy, surprise, sadness, fear, and anger. And then they have kind of some other words that look like that. Yeah, Priscilla's saying I do the AM, PM. So that always is kind of interesting. The one on the right is a kindness tracker. So like, who was I kind to today? Who did I show kindness to? And it's kind of keeping track of myself, husband, daughter, family, friends, right? Kind of keeping track of what that is. So that's kind of a nice, yeah, Sarah's saying like, oh, and others focus, like kind of keeping track of how you're again showing that kindness to other folks. Here's some more. Some people use it to track different kinds of symptoms or medical things like a blood glucose tracking. Some people use it to track their books, so they color in when they're reading different books, and they have the books listed up there in the key. I love the fact that somebody's reading 6 books a month. You go, because I'm lucky to get through. I usually have 6 of them going, but I don't necessarily get through them. So that would probably work if I did that kind. Workouts, right? Kind of tracking your workouts, rating the day, overall rating, right? One person has from a tough day to a great day on a scale of 1 to 6. Activity tracker, again. This is one that I know a lot of folks like. This is from one of our other facilitators, Bailey, and she had this to track her anxiety levels. So she has panic, high, moderate, scattered, low, and none. So she's kind of tracking what that looks like in the month. This is also really good sometimes if you're working with a therapist or if you're seeing your doctor for different medical symptoms. Again, you have this nice piece that has some data there for you. This is one that I did one month where I was tracking different ways that I was learning. So I called it my learning tracker. And so I was kind of focusing on work types of things. So I had things like reading a workbook, a book for work, watching a webinar, a TED Talk, doing one of our district trainings, Keys to Literacy, watching a YouTube video, reading a research article, and then I could kind of track. And then my idea was the next month I would track maybe how I might share my learnings. Yes, I had the fun little skull sticker to pop in there. Again, reading, you can track minutes reading, you could track how many pages you read, exercise. Again, lots of people like the book one. And then there's one who was tracking with her work, purpose fuels passion. So she was tracking the different types of things she was doing to promote her business. So social media posts, create design product, invite, group post, educate and train. So those kinds of things. And I love the pretty little, what's that called? Now I can't think of the word, but I love the little, and why can I never say your name? I can't pronounce it. Chevron. Thank you, Priscilla. Is it Leanne? Leanne, I think, is here, and that's her lovely. It's so beautiful. Yes, I got it right. Sometimes I think like, what is wrong with me? I cannot pronounce things. Anyway, so all these fabulous ideas. I love Leanne's example of, again, use it for what works for you. Right. And so you might have to experiment. If you're new and you're like, I don't know what works for me, find one of these that looks pretty. Right? Find one that kind of struck your fancy and try tracking it out this month. If it doesn't work, you know what? we'll get a new month here in 31-ish days, so you can try something else again, right? So yeah, Tammy's saying I'm not new and I still don't know what works for me. Absolutely. And I'll tell you a secret. So I've just spent all that time making this lovely skull one with all the stuff, and I wrote all this stuff. I think I only tracked like maybe 3 or 4 days, and then I didn't and then I kind of left the rest of it blank. But it was fun kind of making it up, and it was a good exercise. It just was something that clearly didn't necessarily work for me. Right. Yeah. And like Nona Natalie's saying, like, do something and then reflect on what you liked or what you didn't like. So pick one and go with it. Right. So I'm just going to play a little music, let you work on that. Let us know in the chat if you have a different way that you've repurposed this, if you have a different thing that you've done to kind of track this. I'll leave it on this wheel for a little bit. So if you need some inspiration for some words, and we'll check back in here in just a moment. Right. I love, I saw a couple folks said that they like to add the mood meh, MEH, kind of that meh, kind of in the middle there to track. Because sometimes that is how we're feeling, right? We're just, it's like, I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm not mad, I'm not whatever. The other thing that's interesting to do sometimes is if you can kind of block out like the weekends. So you kind of maybe put a highlight around what the weekends are. Sometimes that's kind of interesting to notice how your moods might change from a weekend to a weekday. Or maybe you block out, you make a note when your off days are, right? When you're not at work. So kind of looking and seeing how is that feeling. Also, maybe tying it into the weather a little bit. I know some folks were talking about we're getting ready to go into what I call the dark times, which also makes me so sad because, I'm like, it's 7:30 and it's dark outside. I love the sun, but I also really love the cooler weather. So I guess I just have to kind of take the dark with the cooler weather. But you could maybe track, again, kind of like how you're feeling when the sun goes down or those kinds of things, right? So really good ways to think about kind of tracking those moods. And again, you saw lots of different fun ways to track this. So, and if you set it up and then you don't do anything with it all month, no worries. If you don't set it up and you're like, I'm just going to color in some squares, you can do that too, right? It's totally kind of up to you. And I know lots of folks share on Sonder Club too, so kind of see what they're sharing as well. So our last one that we're going to dive into, our last setup here for the monthly setup, is our habit tracker. And we're going to maybe start some new habits. Maybe we're going to stop doing some habits that don't serve us. So maybe these are like, don't do something. And we're going to continue those habits that bring us value. So again, you can use our theme as the focus, right? You can maybe pick a different theme like grounded, calm, joy, delight, something like that. Maybe you want to keep up with the flourishing idea from last month, or maybe you want to even go back to tranquility, right? Maybe there's something along those lines you want to do. You can continue habits from last month. I've had some people say, well, I really liked my habits last month and they were really helpful, but I feel like I have to find a bunch of new ones for this month. Absolutely not, right? If it's working, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's been working and you want to bring it over, absolutely bring it over. What I want you to do though is really think about a balance between habits that maybe you can do and ones that are going to be trickier. What I don't recommend is coming up with how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You think I'd remember how many lines there are? So I would not recommend coming up with 7 brand new habits of things that you haven't been doing, right? It's too much new. It's too much change. It's going to be stressful. You're going to get frustrated if you can't tick things off, right? Like, don't do that. So yeah, Kim's saying, thanks for saying that. It took me a while to figure out I don't have to come up with new ones every month. Heck no, right? And really, you could just fill in one line. Just as an FYI, there could be one specific habit. Sometimes if I'm feeling like that month might be tough, I will make my bed as a habit because that's something that is very ingrained in me. I just make my bed now when I get up. It's just a thing. I even do it when we're in hotels. My husband thinks I'm silly. I don't care because it's just a habit. So sometimes I'll put that on there because I know that's always a win for me, right? That's always something that I can kind of tick off. Yeah. And Julia's saying still struggles with the whole realistic goals and habits thing. Yeah, we sometimes set up habits for our fantasy self. Our fantasy self that lives in the world where everything works out like we want it to. People do what we need them to do. Our children do what we need them to do, right? There's never any problems. There's never any hiccups. And I don't really know anybody who lives in a world like that. So we set ourselves up for failure, right? And then we're mad at ourselves when we didn't do what fantasy self would have done, right? So think about like realistically, what are some things that work? And realistically, you might not mark in every box, right? You might not fill in, you might not do it every single day, right? Some things like medication, those kinds of things you really need to do. Absolutely put those on there. Maybe you want to think about that perseverance fire from the opening activity, your logs that you made, or your cinnamon rolls, or your octopus arms, right? What kinds of things did you put in there? Can those be a habit? Can that be something that you can add here to the month, right? And you don't have to fill in every line. Really, really don't. So I'm going to show you some examples. Some of them have every line filled in, some don't. Some are very fancy and beautiful and colorful. Some are a little more basic. I added in this little picture, this little meme that I saw, the idea of doing nothing at all versus making small, consistent efforts. Remember how we were talking about at the beginning, that idea of making those small, consistent efforts? So for those of you who kind of like seeing math, right? Look at the difference when I multiply the 365 by 1 versus the 365 by the 1.01. I didn't add a lot, right? 1.01 is not that different from 1.00. But look at the difference after the year, right? 1 versus 37.7, right? That's huge, right? To me, that's a huge win. And it's small, right? So maybe think about what are some small things that I can do. Maybe making your bed is a small thing, right? Maybe eating breakfast is a small thing. You can see some of these things, they have things like flossing. That's a small thing. I went to the dentist for my 6-month checkup, and they always say, have you been flossing? And I'm, yes, of course. So think about those things. Yes, Priscilla, this is the last one that we're going to work on tonight, if you have to depart. So here's some other ideas, things about, I saw somebody talking about wanting to drink their water, drink their 8 glasses of water a day. Maybe that's something that's on here. You'll notice in the weekly setups that there is a habit/activity tracker. Those are kind of ones that are focused specifically on the week. These are theoretically ones that are things you want to do every day, but you don't have to do it every day. So sometimes people like to do it just for their Monday through Friday, and they don't do them on the weekends, and that's fine. They just kind of black those out. And again, from Atomic Habits, we love that book, right? So if you want to predict where you're going to end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses and see how your daily choices will compound 10 or 20 years down the line. So again, think about that. We're in it for the long haul, right? We're not trying to get a quick fix. We're not getting an instant gratification here. We're doing things for the long haul. So think about consistently. If I do this consistently, what will happen, right? And ask yourself, does this habit still serve me, or am I blindly following an old routine? So again, if you bring over habits from last month, that's awesome. Just make sure those habits are still feeding you. I like also, somebody also said the grace idea, right? Give yourself grace, give yourself, sometimes some of those days doesn't work. If you go on vacation, if you've got fall break, if you've got something happening, you don't want to track on that day, absolutely makes perfect sense. And remember, this isn't bingo, and a coverall isn't the only way to win. So there's a big space. I said, giving myself grace and moving on because it's not worth the stress, right? So there's those examples. Oh, and here's some other habit tracker ideas if you need some ideas. So you can use these same ones in your weekly, or you can use something different. I like to use my weekly for things that are very specific to the week and things that I don't necessarily need to do every single day, whereas I use my habit tracker wheel for the things I want to do every day. One thing I will put in my weekly is to check my monthly habit tracker, to go in and fill that out. So again, it's kind of like what works for you. So here's some other ideas. Again, oops, I didn't mean to go that far. So I'm going to cycle through these, let you kind of take a look at some of these different habits that people have written down. Again, think about your things that you have to stoke the fire. Feel free to share with us what kind of habits you're going to fill in, and we'll check back in and wrap things up here in just a moment. All right, my dancing queen, Sonder fam, we have come to the end. Even an hour and 15 minutes goes by so quickly. It's always kind of a blur here. But I did want to leave you with, I know a lot of folks ask, what are some ways I can repurpose the sleep tracker, right? I track it with I have like a smart watch and that kind of already tracks it. So here's some different things that people have done. Some people have used it to track their work breaks. So taking a break at work. Some people have used it to track different workouts, different activities that they've done, exercising, a cleaning log, right? I know a lot of folks have talked about how they're trying to do more daily cleaning to kind of help them keep on top of things. So making a little log that way. Yeah, Joanne's saying I use it as a dream tracker. Another good use of this, a bingo list instead of an actual bingo board. A learning log, things that a topic, tool, takeaway, and rating of different things that you learned. Books that you've read, again, another place for a book. What I was trying to see, whoops, what did I just see? Kyle's saying my sleep tracker becomes my frustration station. So that's a fun way to kind of think about that. Exercise tracker, all those different kinds of things. So again, repurpose it, share in Sonder Club. The other thing, someone reminded us that in Sonder Club, there is the inspiration pages that you can go to sometimes to see different things that people have posted, and you can post your own in there as well. So share your planners, share those pages, share those different ideas of ways that you can use this to make this for you. Karen's dropping some links in the chat, the link for our YouTube event. So all of our socials are recorded. They'll show up on that YouTube channel. We do have some new merch. Everybody's got merch, right? There's some fun tote bags. I think there's some sweatshirts, some different things. And I know they're kind of adding to that as we go as well. There's hopefully everyone's in the Sonder Club. We still have the refer a friend. They get $10. You get $10 if they sign up. If you upgrade to the annual subscription, you save $110 a year. You do have to pay it all up front, but it does have a savings if you're able to do that. And then again, with our app. So, and please check out, we should have all the October socials should be posted on there. Got lots of fun things coming up. Definitely, if you get a chance, check out that Wheel of Life. That's always super fun. And as always, have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your week, a fabulous month. I know I will see you again doing some different socials throughout the month. So remember, keep that fire burning. Your perseverance, I almost said it wrong, your perseverance fire, right? And we will check back in here with you shortly, right? When we see you again at one of our other socials. Take care, everyone.
Keep the fire burning, let it keep us warm.